Welcome to Caskets and Cocktails, Memoirs of a Cemetery Dude. Get ready for a hilarious dive into the world of death care where cemetery industry veteran Mr. Danny and his daughter Katie will answer all those crazy questions you've been dying to ask. Go ahead and pour yourself a drink, pull up a rocking chair, and get ready for some laughs because we guarantee Caskets and Cocktails will be the last ones to let you down.
Hey guys, Katie Leverett here.
I'm Danny Faulkner. I'm her daddy.
And welcome to Caskets and Cocktails. And today we have just a really fun show. We're answering listener questions.
I like listener questions.
I love them too, and we're kind of behind, so you guys bear with us. That's why we thought we would squeeze in no theme show, just kind of awesome questions from our listeners.
Well, we really weren't expecting so many listeners.
That's true. I guess this is a good problem to have.
Yeah,
huh?
You surprised us.
Well, do you want to hop in and get started?
Sure.
So our first question I love, and it is from Marty Melville, and she's actually an author.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not sure how she found us, but she has written a book series called the Deja Vu Chronicles.
Huh.
Yeah, I think I'm almost done with the book I'm reading now, so I think I might download her first book next, but she has like a whole series of books. I'm excited to check them out.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, but Marty, it sounds like she just loves history. Uh-huh. And so one of the questions that she had was, what is the strangest headstone that you've ever seen? I know, like, when I've gone to New Orleans, I've done the cemetery tour. I haven't been in as many cemeteries as you have, but I've seen some weird ones.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest one you've seen?
Well, I mean, there's, like you said, there's a lot of weird ones out there. But I don't know, there's a cute, weird one, kind of cute, not to him, I would guess. But this boy died, according to his death date, he was about 32 or 34, something like that. I can't remember. But it's a double marker.
Oh, okay.
And it has his name on one side. And where his wife's name was supposed to be, it says, you cheated at games, you cheated at love, and you cheated at life, and you cheated yourself to an early death.
Oh my God. That sounds intense.
It was kind of like, rest in peace, some bitch.
Yeah.
You know?
Seriously.
She was not happy. She was one pissed off woman.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I have never heard that is one vengeful grave.
Yeah, she wasn't happy about this whole situation.
Oh my gosh.
And but every time I hire a new person, I always take them up there and show them that grave. And to show them that you have this puritanical view about how memorials are supposed to be, how monuments are supposed to be, and all that sort of stuff. Get that out of your head. Yeah. Because you don't know what that old boy did.
That's true.
That caused him to die. Yeah. That pissed his wife off.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we had that story about the time about the old boy that
beat on his wife.
That beat on his wife, yeah. But he also walked out of his girlfriend's house and dropped dead, and she had to call the wife and say, you know, your husband's on my front porch. Would you mind moving him?
You know, there's a story behind that gravestone, though. Oh
exactly.
My goodness, that is amazing.
All of these memorials.
How old was he? Do you know? Like when he died?
The guy that died?
Yeah.
The one that left his girlfriend's house?
No, the one with the gravestone.
Oh, it was like 32 or 34, something like
so
that.
he was young.
He was a young man.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was a young man. He was rolling hard.
I would say his wife has probably a good solid 40 or 50 years of anger left ahead of her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But she put that on that marker, so she's not going to be buried beside him.
No.
She's not going to be buried beside him.
Oh, my God.
So, I mean, there's some weird stuff out there.
Yeah.
And there's always somebody, some survivor, I guess you say, that wants to throw some snide curveball in there. Whether it's mama didn't take care of all of her stuff and I've got to take care of it and I'm broke and I don't have any money and I've got to do all this stuff. And then they throw some snide curveball in on mama, which mama could have been an angel. I don't know.
Yeah.
She could have been doing all she could want to do.
Now, question is, somebody is in your office and they say, hey, I want to put "Don't rest in peace, she big old jerk" on a gravestone.
Yeah.
Do you, try to talk them out of it?
Yes.
Or do you just go with it and keep your mouth shut?
No. I always say, now what we need to do is we need to step back. We need to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
We need to maybe take 30 days.
Yeah.
And then let's get back together.
Oh, I guess when someone's buried, how long is it before you are able to set the
Well,
does
I mean,
it matter?
it's just whenever you're ready,
Okay.
Whenever you're ready to do a memorial. And see, in our particular instance, because we do so many, it takes, by the time you approve the proof, because the manufacturer will send us back a computerized picture of what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And then you say, now, is this what you want?
Yeah.
And they say, okay, yeah. So they sign it. Or they make the changes.
Yeah.
Okay? And then once we get it ready, they sign it. Because I'm not going to make a memorial unless they sign it. Because it comes in, they've gone through all their remorse and they think that, well, I shouldn't have said that or whatever. And then they say, oh, well, this says that and I didn't say that.
Yeah. Oh.
And then we say, oh, hell yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Here it is right here, and you signed it right here. And so then they have to pay us. Because, I mean, we're talking about $4,000.
Yeah, that's
know,
not cheap. That's not a cheap mistake.
No, I can't afford to just allow you to say, oh, well, I'm not going to pay for it. And we contracted for $4,000. I do 1,000 of these a year.
Yeah.
If I did that, 1,000 times 1,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah, that's crazy. And we all say stuff out of anger. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. My husband would never say that about me.
Of course not. Never.
I'm too sweet to do that, right,
You
Daddy?
are precious.
Well, that is a crazy monument story
Yeah,
for
it is.
sure.
And it's out there in the grave, and everybody walks by and sees it, knows that this old boy did something
Real bad.
real bad.
Real bad.
And the one thing she left off was, rest in peace, you son of a bitch.
She might as well have written it on there because
Exactly.
everybody took that away
That's
reading that.
exactly right.
Well, guys, we're going to try to get a picture of that.
Yeah.
I think we need a picture of that.
I'll take a picture of it and send it
I'll
to you.
have to try to figure out how to blur out his name. But
Yeah.
if you don't follow us on Insta or Facebook, you better follow us because this is
it's
going up.
coming
I'm
up.
excited about this. I might even have to take a trip up there and go see this myself.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, so Marty, I hope that answers your question, and I'm excited to download your book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our next question comes from William. Okay. So William wrote in and he said that he remembers the time when he visited the Crown Hill Cemetery and he got to see John Dillinger's grave. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he wanted to know, do you have anyone famous that you've ever interred, or do you have like a good story about a famous grave or something along those lines? Have you ever had a death brush with celebrities, Daddy?
I've buried a lot of local celebrities.
Like the weatherman?
I have. I've buried a lot of local TV celebrities. I've buried a lot of local bad guys.
Oh.
One burial, which probably is the largest burial I've ever done. There's a guy named T Money.
Can you say that on?
I guess. Well, I mean, how many T Moneys are out there? There's got to be 100,000. But this kid, he was 22 or 23. And his name was T Money. And his mama came in and she bought everything that she could. Which, God bless her, I don't blame her. And I figured it all up, and she picked up the grocery bag off the floor and put it on the table and started peeling out 20s and
Out
10s.
of a grocery bag?
Out 20s and 10s and 5s and all that sort of stuff. Well, come to find out, old T Money made his money selling the dope.
Oh, yeah.
And
hence the sack full of money.
yeah, and hence the chest full of lead.
Oh, yeah. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah,
Bless his heart.
But
Bless his mama's heart.
But the cemetery was completely filled with cars.
Wow.
There had to have been 400 cars there.
So T Money was
Had to
a
be.
fun dude.
He must have been a fun dude. Everybody loved him.
Yeah.
And he was very magnanimous with his money.
Well.
He gave his money out
Yeah.
pretty well, indiscriminately. And so he was the biggest local bad guy, I guess. That
Bad guy slash probably pretty awesome.
yeah, yeah, right, exactly.
We might have been friends with T Money.
But you know, I buried a lot of murderers and all of that sort of stuff. But I mean, that's just
Local stuff.
yeah, local stuff. But T Money loaded me up, and I appreciate you, T Money. I made a little bit of money off of you.
Yeah. Have you ever been to, I've never been to like a famous cemetery where somebody super famous has been buried. I've been to, like I said earlier, the New Orleans one where they have the voodoo priestess. In Savannah, there's one that has just some really good history, but I haven't been to one. Oh, I guess I went to Elvis's house and saw
we went
him.
to Elvis's.
Yeah, when we were
that's
a
right.
kid. Yeah. But I mean, the verdict's still out if he's really out there or not. I'm just kidding. But have you ever been
I had that
to...
discussion this week, as a matter of fact,
Really?
with another woman. Yeah.
Was that a question for the podcast? Is Elvis really dead? Do you know
Yeah, maybe.
Mr. Danny?
I do, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, he's dead.
He's dead. He's a dead guy.
Yeah, but have you ever been to a like a cemetery that's famous for their celebrities? What's
Yes.
that big one in L.A.?
Forest Lawn.
Forest Lawn.
Yeah, Forest Lawn has got a lot of movie stars and all that stuff, musicians and all that sort of stuff there. There's one in Nashville called Woodlawn, where there's a lot of country music stars that are buried in Woodlawn. And I had a friend of mine that owned Montgomery Memorial Park, which, of course, Hank Williams Sr. is from Memorial, from Montgomery, and You know, a lot of the songs you hear about Stranger from Montgomery and stuff like that, that's all about Hank Williams coming from Montgomery.
That's cool.
And the trouble with that is when you're at a smaller cemetery and you have a very famous, like Hank Williams, and you have in Woodlawn.
Family tradition.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got Woodlawn that's got all these famous country music singers there. What happens is, if you don't have security, you're not going to believe it. People go in there and they steal their markers.
What?
Yeah. They'll pick their markers up. It weighs 200 pounds.
Oh, my God.
It'll take 2 or 3 people to pick it up, load it up in the car, and they'll take it away.
How drunk would you have to be to do that?
Pretty drunk.
Yeah. Like, hey, let's go down there and steal Hank Williams' marker.
And then when you get home, it hits you.
Like,
what the hell are we going to do with this?
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds like a super big arrest
Yeah,
waiting to happen.
You can't put it in your front yard.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you gotta do something with
That
it.
is really bizarre. Do people tear up the cemetery? Like, do a lot of people show up and do weird stuff by the graves? Or
Oh yeah, all the time. You know, there was a song that the guy sang about this millionaire dying, and he was left all the money, and
that
the
Dirk
kids
Bentley
weren't.
song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, and I went by his grave today and left a 6-pack on his grave.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks, oh well, gosh, what a unique idea. Well, guess what? It's not unique. Everybody does that stuff. And we have to come by and we got to go pick up all the beer and all that stuff. Now, that being said, I had a cemetery where people would come in and ask for a specific grave. And I don't know if I've told this story or not.
You haven't.
But they would ask for a specific grave, and we would give them a map to the grave, and they would go out there and they would pay their respects, and then they would leave.
I have a feeling I know where this one's going.
And so...
where you're like, that guy is so popular.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking.
He has so many friends.
That's how stupid we were. And we were thinking, gosh, he must have been a great guy.
Yeah.
And so one evening, it was close to closing time, and we closed at 5 at that particular cemetery. We closed at 5 because it was on the side of Missionary Ridge in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it was kind of out of the beaten path. So we would close the cemetery at 5. We'd close the gates. We'd go through the cemetery, make sure nobody was locked inside.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that would be scary.
Oh, and it happened. It happened often.
Okay, we're coming back to that.
And so we'd lock the gates, and then we'd go on about our way. So I guess it was 4 o'clock or so, the cops come in and said, listen, we don't want you to lock the gates tonight. And we said, why? Well, we got to lock the gates.
Yeah, that sounds dangerous.
We got to lock the gates. And they said, well, no, we're what do they call that? Staking out. We're staking out a grave there.
What?
And I said, well, you can stake it out as long as you want to. Some bitch ain't coming up. He ain't coming up. It ain't going to happen.
What did they say to that?
And they said, well, they didn't think it was funny.
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah, they didn't think it was funny. And so they said, no, there's a dope deal going down. And so
you were like, not in my cemetery.
I said, that's what I said.
You're like, T-Money was a great guy. Everybody loved him.
It was a totally different story from T-Money. It's a different location from T-Money. But he said, what we're looking for, he said, somebody's going to come in there and do a pickup.
Oh.
And I said, that don't happen in my cemetery. And this was an old historic cemetery.
Right.
And he said, yes, sir, it does. So I said, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll leave the door open. We'll turn off the lights, and I'll show you where the light is to turn on to the outside.
Surprise!
Yeah. And so
A really bad surprise
we
party.
did this.
Were you there?
No, hell no. I'm allergic to lead.
Yeah, I believe you.
And so anyway, they showed up, and in the course of the evening, the picker-uppers or dropper-offers showed up and dropped off at this particular grave. And that's the grave that everybody had been coming to visit.
Oh, my God.
And what had happened was they would put drugs in the guy's vase, flower vase, and they would put money in the flower vase and take the drugs. And then the other guy would come back and pick up the money.
Why wouldn't you just take the drugs and run? Keep your own money.
I don't know.
I don't know much about that.
I have no idea.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah.
It really makes you wonder, like, I hope no drug dealers are listening to this, because I feel like that is a great idea.
A great idea.
Like, if I was a drug dealer, I would really be taking notes right now.
Well,
but luckily I'm not.
Yeah, well.
I'm too suburban kindergarten mommy to attempt that lifestyle.
Well, it was just an odd experience.
Yeah, totally.
You know? And the police didn't play.
Yeah.
They didn't play. It was kind of like when they found the skull, which is a different story.
Oof. Go back and listen.
Yeah.
Whew. Well, guys, those were two of our listeners' questions. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, and we have another question, and I think it's a good one.
Okay, hang in there. We'll be back.
Beach Too Sandy, Water Too Wet is a comedy podcast featuring brother and sister duo Alex and Christina as they recap dramatic readings of one-star reviews written by real people with not-so-real problems. Whether it's a bar's no throw-up policy, a barista who's just too friendly, or a school psychologist's fashion sense, prepare for equal amounts of laughter and eye-rolling. Listen to Beach Too Sandy, Water Too Wet on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, or any of your favorite podcast apps. You can also find them on all social media platforms at Beach Too Sandy.
Hello, Dan and Katie. This is Strange Talk Podcast. I'm a huge fan of your guys' podcasts, and I listen to every single episode that you guys had so far, and I love it. I love your guys' chemistry, and Dan, you're awesome, and Katie, you're amazing. And I'm not going to lie, Dan, you kind of made me tear up a little bit on the episode when you talked about what kind of made you tear up, and I was kind of tearing up with you a little bit. But I have a question for you guys. Can a cemetery run out of room? And if it can, what do you do in that situation?
You are awesome, Daddy.
Hey, and you're amazing.
Thank you. You're so sweet. And we think that Strange Talk Podcast is awesome and amazing, too.
Yeah, it is.
And what a good question.
Now, they're Canadian, aren't they?
I'm not sure. I'll have to go and look.
Kind of sounded Canadian.
I like his voice. I've listened to his podcast before, and I was kind of excited he called in. Yeah. I know I follow them on social media, and I think they follow us as well. So that always makes it fun to have someone who is not, they're kind of our friend, but I'm excited that they called in, and it was a great question.
It was a great question.
Yeah, so, can a cemetery run out of room? I assume the answer is yes.
People ask that question all the time.
Yeah.
And the answer is yes.
And what do you do?
Okay, now, there are 3 different types of cemeteries that people use.
Okay.
They use country cemeteries, country church cemeteries.
Okay.
They use city cemetery, county cemetery type cemeteries. Mm-hmm. They use perpetual care cemeteries, is what I'm familiar with.
Yes.
Okay? Now, when a perpetual care cemetery runs out of room, that means you've paid in a percentage. In our particular case, it's 15% of the price of the cemetery lot, okay, into a irrevocable trust fund.
Okay.
Which means you can invest it and you can build it up all you want to. All you can use is the income off of that trust to maintain that cemetery.
Okay.
So let's say I go crazy and I go to the Caymans.
Okay. This does not sound implausible.
No, it's not. It's, as you well know, it is not implausible. I've gone crazy and I've gone to the Caymans. But the state can come in, take over your cemetery, take over your trust funds because they can't be liquidated. And they can use that income to provide maintenance for your cemeteries.
Okay.
Also, a lot of cemeteries do not prearrange funeral opening and closings, so they can use the opening and closing fees to help pay for the maintenance. They can use the trust funds to pay for the maintenance, and if anything happens above that, then the state will have to step in and pay for that. But you're assured of maintenance.
Forever.
Forever and ever.
Okay, well, that's good.
Now, city and county cemeteries,
Okay.
they're covered by taxpayers.
Now, is that like where you see veterans buried, or is that something different?
No, that's totally different.
Oh, okay.
That's totally different. That's federal government veteran cemeteries. Okay. Now, there's a lot of cemeteries in the VA system. Okay. Georgia has several. The second largest in the system is in Chattanooga, and they do, I'm wanting to say 1,200 a year.
Oh, wow.
It's a huge amount.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's a totally different deal because it's covered by the federal government.
Okay.
The city and county is covered by the city and county taxpayers.
Is that very popular, though? I don't know if I've ever seen a city or a county.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they are.
They're very popular
Are they
because
cheaper or something?
Because they've been around 1890, 1880, 1870.
Okay.
And I'm going to be buried by my great-great-great-granddaddy.
Okay, I gotcha.
And they bought 45 lots.
Yeah.
You know,
for
that's
like
sort of
$1.50.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what happens is in those, as far as maintenance is concerned, a lot of times they use prisoners.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
we get those at our parks.
They get the county out or the city out, and they put them in the uniforms, and they have them weed eat and mow and all that sort of stuff. They maintain those graves. Now, the last is the worst of the bunch is the church cemeteries, family cemeteries in the county.
They always look a little pitiful sometimes. Sure,
because when the church in the county, out in the country, the kids move into the city, their population dwindles. They can't afford to do it anymore, and they go out of business.
Yeah, and then you're just your family members are just like
bingo
out in a shabby field.
Right. So
there's one kind of like close to where we live, and
it's scary.
Saw like the wall was kind of falling down. It freaked me out, and I was thinking, who takes care of this place? It's
the thing about it is you've passed by 100 cemeteries and didn't know they were there. In that, when you're going down a country road, and you've got farmland. And out in the middle of the farm, you see this big stand of trees.
Yeah.
That's about 2 acres. That's a cemetery.
Really?
That has gone out of business. Family cemetery, country, church cemetery. It's gone out of business. And roots of the trees have just grown up.
Yeah.
And That's the cemetery.
Oh, man.
It's like I had a cemetery one time that had a hidden slave cemetery.
Really?
Yes. And it was way back in the woods. And the woods had covered it up, and the ivy had covered it all up, and everything was nasty. And so we discovered it. We got in touch with an African American church, their teen group, their youth group, came over and helped our groundsman. And we worked on several weekends.
Wow.
Cleaning it all up. And what happened was, you know how we have memorials today or monuments and all that stuff. Well, these were slaves. They didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And when they buried a slave, they put a rock on the head.
That's horrible.
And they kind of scratched the name or the date on the rock. And so it was so important for these kids from this church to be involved.
Right.
Because it was, one, it was their history.
Right.
But it was, two, about helping renew their history.
Right. Oh.
And there are slave cemeteries all over the North and the South.
Right.
And it's a project that needs to be addressed by every single community to get this done and done right.
Sounds like everybody deserves respect, and
everybody
deserves respect. And what an awesome thought to kind of leave on. I love that, and I love that initiative kind of went on, and that hopefully their little souls had a breath of relief after that. I think that's just awesome.
Well, you don't know how it affects kids in the long run.
Right.
When they touch history and they face their past, it can be transformative.
Wow, that's awesome. I love it. And thank you for the question. That was great. I hope he's not tearing up now. I know he's sensitive.
I wasn't planning on going that way, but I mean, I'm glad you asked me that question.
Oh, wow. So, guys, I just am thankful for that story, but we are also very thankful for you. This show would not happen without you guys. We really, really depend on you. And I don't know if you knew this, Daddy, but most people find out about a podcast from a family member, a friend, a coworker, a frenemy, whoever it is. The most of the time when they find out about a podcast, it's because someone told them about it.
Really?
So do us a huge favor and tell somebody today about Caskets and Cocktails. Tag us and post on social media. We love it when you tag us. We do a lot of reshares. We as in me. I do a lot of reshares. So let us know you're listening to us. Put us in an Instagram story. Tag us. We will talk to you. I'll talk to anybody that tags us. But we just really appreciate it. Keep those questions coming. I thought today was really fun.
I thought so too.
Getting in and answering some questions and kind of stepping away from our themes for a minute.
Now, wait a minute. I've got one more thing to add. Okay? This is my second birthday.
What?
This is my second birthday. 2 years ago today, I had quadruple bypass surgery.
Oh, my gosh.
Please take the time to see your doctor, to get a heart check, to see a dietitian, to see whatever you can see about getting heart healthy, because they call it the silent killer for a reason.
Yeah.
Because when I got out of the hospital, the doctor said, Mr. Faulkner, you had 30 days, and that was it.
Wow.
So please, we want you around as a listener for a long, long time. Tell all of your friends, if you like us, tell all of your friends about us. If you don't like us, don't say a word. Okay.
Well, Daddy, I certainly am glad you're still here. You kind of scared us a couple of years ago, and I'm sure the listeners are glad you are still here as well.
And I'm glad I'm still here, because in the cemetery business, we say it's better to be seen than viewed.
Ooh, I like that. And with that, guys, remember, Caskets and Cocktails will always be the
last ones to let you down.
Hey guys, Katie Leverett here.
I'm Danny Faulkner. I'm her daddy.
And I'm Daniel Faulkner, the prodigal son. I emerged from the forest.
And this is Caskets and Cocktails. Welcome, everybody. And clearly we have an extremely special guest.
What's up, dudes?
So, this is my brother and Mr. Danny's son, Daniel. Welcome to Caskets and Cocktails.
Nice to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we have some awesome stories today, and it's really going to include some memories from you, right, Dee?
Yeah, I figured we could take a walk down memory lane today.
I love it. So before we get started, one thing I do want to say is we were just talking right before this, and Daniel was telling me about how one of his coworkers is a listener, and she had texted him and basically asked why I have such a thick accent and Daniel doesn't.
I still am perplexed by this, because I'm pretty sure everybody listening's like, whatever, he totally does, but I don't know.
What happened, Daddy?
She was raised right.
That's right.
And I think you take after your mother.
Oh, yeah, well, that's why I'm the prodigal son. I've been away finding myself, and now
Yes, he found himself
in South Georgia.
And a wife and 2 kids.
Yeah.
He keeps finding things.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, goodness. Well, welcome to the Caskets and Cocktails party. We are
Thanks,
so
dudes.
excited to have you. So, we get a lot of questions, right, Daddy, about kind of our family life and our dynamic and how we work, how we're involved in the industry, that sort of thing. So, I myself took a different path other than death care, and so did you, Dee, right?
I did indeed.
So, we don't work in death care, but we have so many stories and so many memories from it.
Yeah, we do.
What's something that really kind of stands out? Do you have like a specific memory that kind of hangs out?
So when I was a kid, I don't know, 12, 13 years old, maybe, what was I, 10?
Yeah, 10.
10, yeah. So it was me, you, and Granddaddy, and we all sat around for maybe about a week and built a really cool soapbox derby car.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's cool.
And it had a handbrake on it. And so the handbrake.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are you talking about one that you like sit in?
Yeah.
we
Like
made
a big wooden like box.
I feel like I have not even been part of our lives. Why do I feel like every story is like blows my mind?
Well, yeah, it's like a big wooden box and the handbrake. Well, like I know you're thinking like there was something to stop the wheels, but it wasn't. It was just a stick that I sort of pulled, and the stick dragged the ground. So,
And if you think back, the big wooden box was very similar to a casket.
yeah, well, that's why it was so easily built by y'all. So, anyways, yeah. So we built that. We worked on that for like a good week and a half, and then you took it up to the cemetery, and there was this huge hill in the cemetery. And
oh my gosh!
I remember,
that where like our grandparents are buried?
yeah,
on
that's
top?
right. Yeah, that's right where Mamu's buried on that big hill. Mamu's our grandmother, by the way. And so anyways, we would start on the big hill, and I mean, it was steep. So I'd get going.
That hill is intense.
Yeah, and there'd be people getting buried right next to us while I'd be like screaming down this hill. Woo!
I thought that would build character.
Oh my god! And this was before the day of helmets, correct?
Oh yeah,
no
only
helmets.
sissies wear helmets.
Only sissies wear helmets.
Sissies and my clients.
So, FYI, I have a little boy who's doing Boy Scouts, and Soapbox Derby is like this tiny little car that you carve out of wood these days, and then you shoot it down a hill. It does not involve bodily harm whatsoever.
We put humans in these.
And we went real fast.
In a cemetery.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, he had to build clientele.
With his own child.
Yeah, right. And so I'm flying down this hill with a little handbrake, trying to drag it on the ground, trying to stop screaming because I'm careening straight for the office building right in front. I mean, it's coming up fast, but luckily, thank God, there was a flat spot where I sort of planed out.
Yeah, but you're okay.
Yeah.
You're not that much worse for the wear.
No, only a little bit of arthritis and all the joints that I broke, but I'm good.
Oh my goodness. So that is an incredible memory. And I sort of feel like I have no idea that ever happened.
I don't see how in the world.
We had to really talk you into it. And I kept saying, Dad, are you sure this is a good idea? And he would go, yeah, it's good for him. Good for him.
So basically we have a genetic line of bad decision makers.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry, it's all right.
You know what? It's okay. I love it. I'm glad that I married someone a little bit more with a stable head. I know he's the one, if I do something, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is totally normal. So I guess I see now.
Well, one of the things that I think also stands out in Daniel's mind is that our head groundsman, Ed, who was quite an outdoorsman.
Yeah.
He carried a rifle with him.
He was
in
awesome.
his truck and all this stuff. He was quite a hunter and all this sort of thing. And he had a little chihuahua, a small chihuahua.
A beast of a dog.
Oh, and this was a great big man. And he was quite an outdoorsman, and he always he brought his dog to work every day. And he called it a bear dog because it was barely a dog.
Oh, that's cute.
Daniel and I would go down to this, they called it a river, and we'd go down, it was like a creek, and we'd fish. And
Who is they? Was it like
the people people called it a river. It was
Okay.
Chickamauga River.
Okay.
And it was really a creek.
Okay.
And so Daniel looked at me, he said, Daddy, look, there's a snake. And we looked, and there was a big, huge copperhead.
Yeah, it was a big one.
Oh my goodness.
And he had gotten a frog by the back end.
Stop it.
And he saw us and we saw him, and he was more scared of us than we were of him.
Oh my God.
And
he
kept diving down, but the frog would puff up with air and it'd pop him back
him
up.
up.
Oh yeah, it'd
The
pop him
frog's
back
like,
up.
not today, Copperhead.
I remember that. I remember him popping
Daniel
back
was
up.
going,
That was crazy.
He was saying, well, what do we do? I said, go run, get Ed right now. Tell him to bring his rifle. And so he did, and Ed came running down there with the rifle. And the frog was there, the snake was there, and they kept bobbing up and down. And Daniel looked at Ed, and Daniel said, shoot him. Well, Ed got his gun, and he was probably 20 yards away.
He was he was at the top of the hill.
He was a long way away.
Yeah.
And he shot that rifle just as the frog and the snake popped out of the water.
Stop it.
It went through the frog and through the snake's head.
Oh.
It was a perfect shot.
It was perfect. It couldn't have been any better.
Now we have talked about how we love good snakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Copperheads are not one of them.
Yes, no, that's gonna kill somebody.
Yeah.
So for all those animal lovers out there, we do love animals and we love snakes too, but we do not love copperheads.
You should see my son. He carries around 3 or 4 lizards at a time.
We're an animal-loving family, but oh my goodness, I cannot believe that shot.
Well,
was he a sniper or something in his back in the day? Or did he just show up without much of a resume?
He didn't talk much about his past.
Yeah.
And I didn't ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Anybody that can shoot like that, you don't question them much. But to tell you, he took the snake. He went out and got the snake. He skinned it, cured the snake skin. And Daniel,
I still have it.
25 years later, still has that snake skin.
Sorry, I stole your ending.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
He's new to this. He's new to this, right?
Your sister normally does.
Yeah, there you go. Well, so speaking of the bear dog, I know a guy who uses his Chihuahua and puts it in a cage to go alligator hunting, and he'll put it in the cage. Get the dog barking, and the alligators will come to eat the dog.
Wow.
He'll catch the alligators that way.
We run in a little bit of different crowds.
Well, it's South Georgia versus North Georgia.
I did tell you I came out of the woods. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I just love both of those memories. I think those are just awesome. I tell you what, I am always amazed at kind of when we get together as a family, what we reminisce about and what we talk about. And I know a lot of folks at home, they email us all the time and kind of want to know about what our family life was like. And I jokingly say, like, we grew up in the cemetery. I know that you and I both have slung weed eaters in the cemetery.
Oh, yeah.
We've mowed and done all sorts of stuff.
Where did you learn how to shoot guns?
That's what
In
I was
the
about to say.
cemetery.
Yeah. On the same note,
Yeah.
we Dad got us our first 410 shotgun, and then the Walther PPK because it was the same gun that James Bond shot, so he wanted to get that. So we learned how to shoot the pistol and the shotgun in the cemetery. And Katie was actually a better shotgun shot than any of us were.
She was. I
remember.
And I thought I was such a big
And
deal
don't worry,
showing
I
her.
still
and she
am.
went,
Because we put
guys.
the milk jug, filled it up with water a ways away, and Katie was still blasting it away.
So this is just like a sneak peek into some of our family life, and we are so blessed and lucky to have such an amazing family. And thank you, Daniel, for being here today.
Well, thanks for having
I hope
me.
that you'll come back on.
Yeah, I definitely will.
I feel like sometimes we have to wrestle our family members. I know when we had our first special guest, Miss Jeannie,
yes.
she was not excited about coming on.
Well, don't you know?
She loves listening to the show, but it's kind of hard.
Well, don't you know all of the people out there that are listening to us saying, damn, what a weird family.
I know, right? Right?
It's like a weirder Kardashian family. That's how I picture it.
With the clothes on.
Yeah.
And a whole lot more broke.
Yeah, we're weird Kardashians that wear clothes and aren't billionaires.
Yeah, right.
Yet.
Yeah, we're on our way.
Yeah.
We're on our way.
There you go.
We actually, to be more specific, we have earned so much money doing this that we were able to pay for a website.
Yes.
So we have a new website.
Absolutely. If you have not checked it out, be sure to go out there. It is www.casketsandcocktails.com, and it's awesome. You can see our latest Instagram feed, our latest Twitter feed. You can listen to the latest episode as well and see all of the amazing platforms that our podcast is at. And also, you'll get to see some great information about how you can donate to the show. I don't think we're going to become billionaires off of this. I hate to break it to this clan, but
I had already ordered a Rolls Royce.
we're going to have to get a lot more Patreon donations. But there is a spot where you can donate to help support the show. And we just do stuff like get a website, buy stickers, just really fun stuff to help support the show. But you guys, also what supports the show is Killer Trace. So if you guys hang on for just a second, we have a lot more really fun stuff to talk about in just a minute.